because I know that the biggest thing. So funny enough, we just talked about probably the biggest issue that Adam Silver had with his current with his league a couple years ago with load management, and he established the 65 game rule. Now the biggest thing that he is trying to fix with the NBA is tanking, because tanking is pretty much is it probably the biggest it's ever been in the NBA, or at least the most prevalent it's been in a while, at least. Which, I mean, this year is a very good, or it should be a very good draft class. But I don't know if either of you have a list of the ideas that Adam Silver has come up with. Dawson, it sounds like you do. So we'll hand it off to Dawson. He'll give us a little bit of a rundown, and then we'll have just an open discussion on our thoughts on this, because tanking's an issue in the NBA right now.
Yeah, so I think the NBA owners and the Players Association met, I think, in the end of January, and they brought up some rules to potentially eliminate tanking, or at least like minimize it so it's not as obvious. Uh, some of the concepts include like first round draft picks can only be top 4 or top 14 protected. So either it can just be like you're guaranteed in the top 4 for the pick, otherwise it goes somewhere else, or just lottery protected, which makes a lot more sense. Like all the trades that happened during the deadline, like the one that always is going to confuse me is the Zubac trade. Like if the pick is like 1 to 6, it goes to Indiana, but if it's 7 to 10, it goes to the Clip. Like it's
Yeah.
super weird, and it just makes it like not much sense for the casual NBA fan. Another one is the lottery odds will freeze at the trade deadline, so you can't just like trade all your good players away for draft picks and then just bottom out for the rest of the year. Your odds will just stay put in the middle of February. You can't pick in the top 4 in consecutive years. It looks like is one of the ideas brought
Rip the
up.
Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, teams can't pick in the top 4 the year after making the conference finals. This one's really weird because there should be like one-offs. As a Cavs fan, when LeBron left in 2018 and 2010, for that matter, the Cavs like nosedived because they were just not a great team around him, and they were the like worst team in the NBA. So I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that one, but it's just one of the rules brought up. Lottery odds can be determined based on your last 2 seasons of play and not just the current season, which is kind of an interesting one. Uh, the lottery also will extend to the playing team. So even if you win your playing games and make the playoffs, you're technically still in the lottery. And then the odds for the lottery teams, they'll flatten out. Like it's just all 14 teams have an equal percent chance of getting the first pick, second pick, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Those are just some of the ideas that they talked about, at least in January. There's some of them that are cool that could like potentially stop. Like I really like they only could be top 4 or lottery protected. Just makes more sense as the NBA fan. It's like you don't have to worry about a pick falling between like it's like the Pacers pick, like if it's 7 through 10 or 1 through 6. Um, the odds freezing at the deadline is kind of a cool concept as
That
well,
might
but
be my favorite one, personally. I kind of like that idea, because I feel like at that point you really know whether or not you're going to be contending or not, and then you can't have like there won't be as many teams, at least, that it will be able to completely nosedive. Maybe that makes some of those teams that know that they're not going to be good enough try to tank in January, because like that's still going to happen. I feel like with that rule, where players will be like, or teams will be like, okay, well, we're not going to be competing this year, so we might as well just sell everything in December rather than wait until February and figure out what we can get in the trade deadline. But I do like that one.
I I also think it's really this is just a one-off year because the lottery and the picks in the top 5 this year are so good
Yeah.
that this talk is only heightened.
Hmm.
Like you can either get Cameron Boozer, you can either get AJ DeMonsta or Darren Peterson, Caleb Wilson. Like
Don't get
for the
Darren Peterson.
I,
He's
regardless of what you think of
load
Darren
management.
Peterson, yeah. Um,
He won't
there's
be making those 65 games. Sorry.
okay.
No, no, no.
No,
Sorry. I
I
didn't
get,
mean.
I get. But still, like what was it? Was it 2 years ago the draft was terrible, where the
Yeah.
Hawks had the first pick, and no offense to Ricochet, but teams were not tanking for Zachary Ricochet. That just wasn't happening. It's just more obvious this year because like there's potentially 4 NBA All Stars that could be up at the top. So
Yeah. Hunter, what are your thoughts on the current state of like tanking in the NBA? And are there any of the rules that Adam Silver has proposed or has discussed with the media that you like, or are there rules that, like, because I know if anyone out of us three pays attention to the NBA the most and maybe has the most interesting ideas for different rules and stuff, it would be you. Are there rules that aren't being talked about that maybe the NBA should consider in terms of trying to stop tanking?
I'm going to go into this by prefacing something. I'm not saying that tanking isn't an issue. And perhaps I have less of a problem with the message and more of a problem with the messenger and who's at the helm. However, if I were asked what the biggest issue in the NBA was right now and what needs to be addressed in this offseason, I think maybe the last answer might actually be tanking. And especially when the guy talking about how tanking is an issue has a nice little FanDuel odds at the bottom of the screen when he's talking in the meanwhile of all these scandals going on. Or, the big injury problems that we've had this year and players being hurt. But yeah, man, the Utah Jazz should have played Lauri Markkanen in a random day in January. Like that's what we're talking about. And all this being brought up by a team that did nothing but tank for 4 years and shut down their best player in 2022 because he rolled his ankle while they sucked as a basketball team but needed a better pick. Now tanking is a problem to them. Now tanking is a problem as soon as the pick that they have coming in might not be theirs anymore because the team that traded to them is trying to be worse so that way they get to keep their pick. All talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder here. That's really where I have an issue. Again, like nobody enjoys watching teams be purposefully bad and being like, well, we need to increase our odds at a pick, et cetera, et cetera. But, especially for teams that are just like downright bad, like teams like, because it's possible, you look at a team like the Wizards, no disrespect to the Wizards. They've been doing some really cool things. We've talked about on the podcast before. That's why I'm bringing them up, because I do think there's some cool stuff they're doing moving forward. But they've just been unlucky and just not good as a team. Mm-hmm. And so, especially when you have somebody come up and be like, yeah, this idea where teams aren't allowed to have like back-to-back years of like good picks. I'm like, you're actually an idiot. Like you're actually so dumb because you're going to make this team worse for even longer, all because you think it's a problem and it's not bringing in you more money overall as a whole league. That's really where I get most heated about this, is that it's not, again, it's not that it's not an issue. I want to hammer that point home. I do think there's a way to fix it. To be honest, I think the easiest way, and again, this probably doesn't fix necessarily the tanking, but especially in making potentially consistent things. But, if we really just want to get boring here, like the NFL's just copy and pasted the standings into a draft and called it good every year. Like we could just do that. Especially, and I think there's something that Dawson's brought up time and time before too that I like, is that especially when you look at like how the lottery works, it's like just because you're the worst team, that doesn't actually necessarily give you the best odds at the first overall pick. Your best odds are actually getting the fifth pick, which just blows.
Because the top four is even odds now, right?
Yeah. So if I remember right, I think the top two worst teams have the same % chance of getting the first pick, if I remember right. It's just that you're essentially like your picks can be in like a certain window, if I remember right. So like if you have the worst record in the league, you're kind of almost guaranteed, if I remember right, you're basically guaranteed a top 5 pick, with number 5 being your best available. While the second worst team, that window opens up to like the top 7, if I remember right.
Yeah. So like Sacramento right now is the worst record in the NBA. They can only get the 5th pick as their worst option.
Okay.
But to be fair, that's the most likely option. They have almost a 48% chance of just getting the 5th pick. And then it's 12% for the 4th pick, almost 13% for the third, and it just kind of escalates up to the first pick is you get 14% chance.
This makes me want. You mentioned the NFL, and I never really even considered that. Why does the NBA do the draft or the lottery? Like,
I don't know the history of it, but
It's
probably like a tradition thing at this point.
my question is, and I'm not much of an NBA historian as I would like to be, but what did they do? Because I know this is like a relatively new concept for the NBA, and this hasn't been going on since like the 50s. What did they do before the draft lottery?
Yeah,
was it just literally the NFL system where it's like, hey, the worst team gets the first pick and so on and so forth?
I have no idea. It's weird to me, and the NBA needs to do something because, again, some teams just suck. Like Sacramento sucks at being able to build something, and like I don't know. If anything, I feel like just doing the full-on standings as the draft order benefits them even more because they would have a better chance of actually getting a good pick because it seems like they always end up falling short of getting a good pick for them.
Can I also be honest? Look at the top seeds in each conference. They all are good because they tanked at one point. I'm not saying like that's the direct reason that some of these teams are good. Oklahoma City was just flat out bad for a couple years after that one goofy bubble team with Chris Paul and SGA. Like they like literally sat out SGA for like half the season. Like, hey, dude, you're not playing. You're just not gonna play. And then I think either that season or the season after, they got Chet and they got Jalen Williams. Look at the Spurs. The Spurs, after they like realized the DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge era was done, they're like, you know what? We're gonna be bad. They got Victor Wembanyama, and now they're the second best team record-wise in the NBA. So like, tanking does work for some teams. It's just some of these franchises are just so incompetent.
Sacramento. Sorry.
Sacramento. No offense.
I love trashing Sacramento.
Washington. Even Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn's had some okay teams in the last 15 years, but
they've had some good picks.
I was going to say, they're dumb enough to trade all their picks. Like, they would have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum had they not made the most egregious trade in NBA history. So
I don't even want to know that butterfly effect. I don't even want to know what the Celtics roster would look like right now.
I don't know.
If Boston would have went, let's run it back one more time with KG and Paul Pierce, knowing what they did the next year in Brooklyn. Dodged a bullet on that one. As much as I make fun of Danny Ainge, he did one good thing. He did a few good things, but yeah, I'm interested to see what the NBA will be able to do because I know they're going to do something. They can't just let what's happening right now continue. And like Hunter's kind of hinted at, maybe there's a bigger. I feel like there's a common denominator with a lot of these issues that are in the NBA right now, and it's funny because I don't think big media is ready to talk about it, but I think a lot of the NBA fans are ready to talk about it.
And like at this point, I can't even start this off by saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist because I think I probably bring up the most conspiracies on this podcast. So if you want to call me one, you can. But again, I also think it's interesting that so we have all this talk about trying to change the tanking stuff, and if you were to look at some of the worst teams in the NBA, they're not exactly the most profitable. They're not exactly the biggest markets out there, right? All this is happening while we're having some of the dumbest CBA things I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like, well, to be honest, at this point here, guys, I got an idea for us. Maybe instead of changing the tanking rules, we make it to where there's only 6 NBA teams, and they're located in New York City, Los Angeles, Miami. Well, I guess we can throw Boston in there. Might as well.
Yeah, we made it.
What else is
Chicago?
Else is a big city? We could do Chicago, but they kind of stink, so maybe not. And they're going to lose their NFL team too. So why would we put the NBA team there?
Yeah, that's true.
But again, like I just think it's kind of wild. All this is happening.
Actually, they would probably just end up going Las Vegas instead of
True. Yeah, that'll be the expansion.
If they did the 16 league, they would just go to Las Vegas.
Expansion by shrinking. We're going to go to Las Vegas. Let's get them, guys. Call FanDuel and make your account now.
I love the NBA's gotten in so much trouble with this, having the gambling ads show up at the worst time possible when news are coming out about their players. It's bad. That's another thing. I think we definitely need, I know we talked about doing it last year, but I think this is the year that we need to actually do an episode where we put ourselves as commissioners, and we can probably do a set of 4 rules that we think we all should address, and then also a set of rules that we might want to consider implementing and stuff like that. But yeah, the tanking is an issue, but like Hunter has kind of hinted at, and I kind of agree. Maybe there's a bigger issue in the league right now that NBA fans are noticing, but no one else is really wanting to fully admit that is potentially a problem.
Hey guys, stop tanking and watch your favorite NBA teams on these 6 different accounts, all at $15.99 a month, but you're not allowed to watch the team that you live the closest to.
Shame.
And your best player is injured, and the officiating's really bad. But don't worry, you can watch all the highlights on our NBA app, brought to you by DraftKings.
Is it actually DraftKings? Oh, okay.
I'd be surprised.
Prize
at this point, who knows? At this point, Brock, who knows?
Underdog Fantasy.
No.
It's the Underdog Fantasy NBA app presented by FanDuel, highlighted by DraftKings Sportsbook. Friends with I'm running out of gambling apps.
Is this a good time to talk about our new sponsorship?
Yeah.
If you use code 515 on your DraftKings account,
Come on.
you get a free 2. I'm just kidding. That'll be.
You know,
The
NFL has thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Adam. Thank you.